In other words, let's say chas v'shalom, Rahman al-Litzlan le'aleinu, a child is being traumatized. They're going to have some reaction. They have to react somehow. Nebuch, a child is being molested, or even bullying, even anything at that point, right? They're going through a hard time. They're going to react somehow. And any reaction that they have, we have a stamp and a label for them. That they don't have a reaction to trauma. They don't have a normal reaction to a traumatic experience. They have a sickness. So one child he's just, right? He comes to school and he's like, there's no kayach. So we call that depression, or the bad midah of lazy. 100%. Okay? Another kid is like, he's so, it's cooking inside of him. It's just cooking, right? And he can't concentrate and he can't stop moving around. So we just call that ADHD. Another kid is like all over the place and he can't focus. So we just call that ADD. Another kid, you just say like something and he says, don't tell me what to do. Explosive anger, bad midos, or we call it oppositional defiant disorder. So for the children who are traumatized at young ages, and as we're learning, there are so many of them, they will react somehow. Like I asked one kid, Nebuch, he was traumatized, he tells me, a kid that doesn't react to a trauma, he's sicker than all of us. That's really sick. What do you mean, you have no reaction, everything's fine? Life just continues while your uncle or your brother or your neighbor is molesting you on a constant basis, and you can handle that and without any reaction? It's impossible. And any reaction that we have, now it's true we don't know what it is. That's the problem. Could be trauma, could be depression, could be trauma, could be anxiety, could be bad midos. I get calls all the time. Last night I was on the phone, yesterday I was on the phone, cases that I don't take, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old, and they're being told this child is a manipulator, is a liar, is lazy. That's what they're being told. I said, yes, I understand that if you want to define the behavior, that's what it looks like. You know who else is lazy? This guy that I know got hit by a truck and broke both of his legs. He is so lazy. I can't get him to go to the gym. He won't go up and get himself even a drink. So you're defining trauma and you're looking at the outer layers, and that's the definition. That's as deep as the professionals got on this. Lazy, manipulator. Listen what I told them. I said, if you want to do a shidduch with somebody and you're finding out information about the family, what is the worst thing you could hear about the father? A ganef? That's bad. Stay away from him. I would stay away. What else? What are the bad stuff? I think the worst thing I could hear is he's a manipulator. The worst thing. A manipulator, you know what a manipulator means? I'm not just struggling. I'm not just sinning, stealing. If I steal, it's my chasarn, right? I saw cookies and I wanted to take it. Okay? Lazy, my chasarn. Anger, my chasarn. A manipulator is a mastermind of Ra. He has control over himself and he's choosing to use his brains to manipulate the situation, to manipulate other people. I can't think of any worse thing that somebody can call somebody. I'm not saying that there aren't any, but it's one of the worst. Manipulator. And we take this and we slap this on a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old, because he said he's not going to go to yeshiva unless I give him ice cream. He's a manipulator. Because manipulator. It's like it's an adult title. It's a title for an evil adult person who has the ability not just to control himself, but to control other people, and he's broken and he's going to manipulate the situation. You need extra koiches to do that. These kids are broken. You're trying to survive, and they slap on titles. They told me he's lazy. I said, so what happened? Hashem was making the chulent, and he's putting in pepper, and then he gets a phone call. Yeah, was titzach, right? And then he finished the phone call, and then she goes back to did I put in pepper? I don't think so. And gets another phone call. Hashem was making this neshama, and he's in the middle of putting in the ingredient called lazy, and he got totally distracted. Lazy, 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 lazy. Hashem made this kid so lazy that he doesn't want to go to camp, which is fun. He doesn't want to go to yeshiva. He doesn't want to function. He doesn't want to put on tefillin because he's so lazy, going like this. That's how lazy Hashem made him. So I told the parents, if that diagnosis is true, what do you want from him? Hashem made him so lazy. How can anybody, you can't fight that. Laziness, a little lazy you can work on, but if Hashem himself destroyed his functioning with the bad midah of laziness, how do you expect him to fight Hashem? Laziness, manipulating, this stuff is only 5%, 10% this way and that way. It can't destroy your life because you're so lazy. You're such a master manipulator. So that's what I got out of this article. What I got out of this article is that she's right. Everything that happens that a child who's traumatized does, we have a label for. And those kids end up getting the wrong treatment and therapy because the diagnosis is wrong, and then the wrong medication. Let's take it a step further. There are kids that have the real ADD or ADHD, that machla from Hashem. It exists, kids have it. Those kids take a pill, they feel good. How many of your kids were prescribed medications? Just raise your hand. How many of them, keep your hand up, if the kids hated the medication? I hate the way it makes me feel. Why? Why? Because a lot of them are getting prescribed the medication for a disease they don't have. They don't have depression. That piece of them that controls depression is fine, and you're medicating it, but it doesn't need medication. That piece of ADHD is fine. They don't have ADHD. If you're being traumatized, you look like you have ADHD. And then when you take the medicine to control the disease of ADHD, it doesn't work and it makes you feel terrible because it's medicating a part of you that's fine. That's not why I'm jumping around. I don't need that part of my brain fixed with medicine. So steam comes out of their ears, frustration, anger, terrible stuff. Somebody who's going through a trauma is going to look like they have ADHD. So what do? We say, the kid is moving around in class, can't behave like that, and it's a problem, right? So I have a solution. Let's go ahead and take rope. We tie down his feet, we tie down his arms, and then, his head is still moving around. We put a brace, we got him like that, tied down. We look in the window, we look in the class, everybody's behaving. Where's Yankee? Oh, Yankee's tied, he's good. Okay, yeah, Yankee's behaving. That's what the medicine does. The medicine makes you not be able to move. But if you're a trauma victim, inside you still feel the urge to move. You're revved up, as Dr. Reggie just said. You're wound tight. You're moving because of that, and now we're tying you down with a medication that goes into the brain of the child and numbs their ability to move their hands, basically. It didn't stop the trauma from happening. It doesn't prevent the feelings of frustration that a trauma victim has, which could be why some kids feel horrible on this medication. Because if I have an urge to scratch an itch, a mosquito bite, and you numb the mosquito bite pain, very good. But if you tie down my arm, I'm going to get super frustrated, and as soon as you untie me, I'm going to go nuts because I have the urge a whole day to scratch it. You didn't take care of the problem. You just took care of your problem as a Rebbe, as a teacher, which is real. You took care of your problem as a parent because you can't function, so your problem, you took the pill. You gave it to the kid. So now I have the urges inside of me because I'm revved up and I'm freaking out and I don't know who to tell, and my life is being ruined, but I can't even do that anymore because you tied me down with pills. That's the problem that she's talking about, of a child who's getting the wrong diagnosis. Nobody's fault. We're not Nevi'im. Kids, like we said, they don't say what happened to them. So what are you supposed to do? You look at the symptoms, you look at the behavior, and you medicate it. But if the kid was traumatized, you end up with a much bigger problem down the road because they don't trust adults anymore. They don't trust the experts and the professionals and the doctors, all these people that were medicating me for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And as soon as you have enough kayach to break out, you trust nobody. Nobody. Anything that is system, I'll destroy, burn it to the ground. because that whole system was now sitting on top of me, called me a loser and a dysfunctional person, sent me out of class, and nobody could even help me. None of you helped me. That's their pain. I went to the doctor. Why didn't he see what's wrong with me? Like anybody would feel pain if you go to a doctor with a physical illness and they misdiagnose you and they do the wrong thing to you. You will also hate doctors and not trust them. They don't trust adults because the adults didn't know what was wrong with them. And we define their dysfunction by blaming them with bad midos and diseases that they never had. One last thing. Hashem does not give one person 5 sicknesses. If somebody has chas v'shalom rachmana litzlan le'aleinu, a heart problem, that's a problem. Cancer, a problem. Lung problem, a problem. Diabetes, a problem. Nobody goes to the doctor and gets 5 illnesses. If somebody chas v'shalom gets 5 diseases, then you have to check the immune system. Because they're just breaking down and it's just different parts are breaking. They don't have a heart problem. That's not the shayrish of it. The shayrish of the problem is that their immune system is down, so it's going to affect every part of them. So raise your hands if your kid's got a mental illness, disease, prescribed to them. Okay, now hang on, leave it up. If it was 2. If you got 2. Leave your hands up if there were 3 different diseases, anxiety, depression. Did any of you get anxiety, depression, ODD, MP3, JFK? Hashem doesn't give 5 diseases. If a child has depression, okay, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's medical. But once you start getting stamps all over the place, why would Hashem give a kid anxiety, depression, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, oppositional defiant, which just means they're really angry that nobody knows what's wrong with them. They're very frustrated. So call that. Once you're getting multiple diagnoses, check the immune system. Check trauma. Because trauma makes a person, like we just learned from Dr. Reggie, trauma gets them in all different ways. So one day they're fine, and one day they're crazy, and one day they look depressed, and one day they look hyper, and one day they look bipolar, and one day they look like borderline personality disorder. When you're traumatized as a child, you'll end up looking like everything. Schizophrenia, all kinds of stuff. And those unfortunate victims that end up hurting other people, they're the ones who I see are getting more. They're so messed up in their head, they're getting more mental illness. Their mental illness is just breaking them down. So I think that that's one of the keys also. Could be, we could say maybe it's trauma, maybe it's not if it's one. But once it's like several different things and they're like going across the board and they're getting stamped with different diagnoses, it's a very big red flag that it's trauma.